Well, hello, welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us again today as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. Today we're going to read 7 of the 15, songs of ascents or songs of going up. Now, whether these songs or psalms were sung while the priests went up the stairs of the temple or as pilgrims were going up to Jerusalem, whatever the case, they're all festival hymns used during the various pilgrim festivals. So let's see what they have to say and how they fit with where we are at the close of the book of 1 Samuel. Our first psalm is Psalm 121. Psalm 121 speaks of the help a pilgrim receives from the Lord in all of their adversities. As the psalm continues, the promises and the blessings grow. In other words, they keep getting bigger as you go along. God does not let your foot slip. He watches over you without slumbering. He shades you from the hot sun and keeps you from harm. The Lord watches over both your coming and your going over all time. You can certainly see how, for example, we see examples of this in the life of David before he was king and after he was king as well. Psalm 123, our second psalm for the day. In that psalm, our eyes rise from Jerusalem to heaven. It's God who provides for us and sustains us with his mercy. Just as the writer of the psalm received contempt and ridicule for the unique ways God had asked them to live, in particular had asked them to live as Jews, so we find ourselves the objects of scorn and ridicule for taking God at his word, and even the lives that he has us live as Christians. Yet we bear this patiently, as did not only the psalmist, but also Christ himself. Psalm 124 is written by David, whether he was king, whether as king, which would then put this at the time when the attackers who had been following Absalom, the attackers that he's referring to would have been those men who were following Absalom, or if this psalm was written before he became king, then the attackers or the pursuers would have been Saul and his men. Later, this psalm would be read thinking of the Samaritans who opposed the rebuilding of Jerusalem. This would have been after the exile. People would have read this psalm thinking about those who opposed the rebuilding of Jerusalem. And today, it applies just as properly to those who attack the church and her members. We're reminded at the end that our help comes from God alone, God who is our maker. Psalm 125. Our next psalm speaks again of how God protects his people. Notice how the psalmist speaks of how the wicked will not be allowed to rule long over Israel, lest the people become evil themselves. Is that not true of us as well? God provides just and righteous leaders to keep his people on the straight and narrow, because wicked and evil rulers will eventually lead God's people to do wicked and evil things. May the Lord grant to us just and righteous rulers. Psalm 128 is a promise of blessing and a prayer of blessing. A promise of blessing to those who fear the Lord, and a prayer of blessing that God would provide bountifully, including children. Notice the psalm given, notice the blessing given to see not only your family grow and prosper, but to see also the city of Jerusalem. The psalm again closes with a prayer for peace in Jerusalem. That peace will one day be ours when Jesus returns and we live with him forever. While Psalm 128 prayed for blessing on those who fear the Lord, Psalm 129 tells us the wicked will have no blessing. In Psalm 128, the righteous were compared to fruitful trees and productive vines. But in Psalm 129, the wicked are depicted as uprooted weeds, something that has no value and will shrivel up and be done away with. Our final psalm for today is a penitential psalm. It begins very personally in nature. It says, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord." Yet it ends with a collective call. "O Israel, put your hope in the Lord." The psalm has in it great words of comfort, and it's often read at the graveside during interments. It notes how God does not keep a record of sin, but instead God forgives. It gives the example to us to place our hope in the Lord, to hope with all our heart in him, for his love is unfailing, and his redemption is full and complete. The Lord will redeem Israel from all her sin. What a joy and comfort such this brief psalm gives to us. So once again, I pray that our time together, that the readings that you're doing are helping you to grow, that they're edifying you and strengthening you. I look forward to joining again with you the next time.